Hey guys, good morning. I have Mikael Dia in the house today, and we are going to be talking about funnels and this company that he has created from scratch. I'd love to do just a quick little intro, Mikael, and then I'm
Sure.
going to pop this over to you and let you talk to us a little bit about you, okay? So I
Beautiful.
have
Sounds
this
good.
very official bio on Mikael that I want to read to you guys so I don't mess any of this up because it's really impressive. So Mikael Dia is a digital marketing expert and founder of Funnelytics, like
Yep.
F on your hat.
That's right. That's the logo.
I love it. A software company helping entrepreneurs and marketers convert traffic into more profit, which is what all of us want. Passionate about helping entrepreneurs scale their business in a faster and more efficient way, which who doesn't want more efficiency? Mikael developed a simple visual tool for entrepreneurs and marketers to understand the number in their marketing at a glance in order to easily fix holes and optimize what's working. Now here's the exciting stuff, guys. Here's the money. Using this method, Mikael scaled one of his businesses from $2,500 a month to $5,000 per day. You heard that right, per day in revenue, and has helped countless clients grow a similar quick rate as well. Mikael has grown in his marketing agency, White Coat Digital, to over $1 million in revenue in just 18 months. So I can't wait to hear more about that.
Sounds good.
Originally from Montreal, Mikael lives with his wife and 18-month-old daughter in Toronto, Canada. And you can find him online at funnelytics.io. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So Mikael, introduce us to you. That was a really amazing little bio.
Man, that was yeah, there you go. You have a pretty good introduction. I don't know, that makes me feel or makes me sound much better than I am really ultimately. But no, I've been doing this for a long time. I give you a quick background. Yes, I live in Toronto. It's a nice, beautiful, sunny day today. I graduated university as an engineer. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I graduated back in 2008, and as a civil engineer, which is like roads, bridges, building structures, that kind of stuff. And even throughout my degree, I knew that I didn't really want to do this, but like, you kind of after, who knows what they really want to do after high school, right? Like, it's like, well, I'm 17 years old. Like, just give me, I'm it's first time being introduced to alcohol. Like, let's start there. Let's go, and after I graduated university, I was working as an engineer about it really with the commute and with the traffic and all of that. It was about a 90-minute commute outside of the city and a 90-minute commute on the way back. And all I did the entire day was sit behind my computer doing these AutoCAD drawings, which is like, literally line tools of like mapping out what does a road look like or a bridge and stuff like this. And I was miserable. It was horrible. Like, it was one of those, the typical story of like, you hate your job, like to a degree where it's like, oh, I want to do anything but this. And at the time, I was living with a couple of roommates of mine, and we decided to start a t-shirt company. And because we all of us were kind of like, let's just do something that maybe could be big and whatnot. And it was more of a hobby than anything. But really what ended up happening was we ordered all of these different t-shirts, and we sold out of them super fast. Like, to our friends, our family. We were fresh out of university, so we had a big group of friends, and people bought them really quickly. And we actually we were pretty cocky at the time. We were kind of like, oh, well, this is easy. This business stuff, well, becoming millionaires, that's so easy. Let's just order a whole bunch more. So we did. Our entire condo was full of t-shirts, like boxes and boxes of t-shirts. And we realized that all of our friends and all of our family bought t-shirts from us, and we had nobody else to sell to, and we had no idea how to sell to strangers. So we're stuck with this condo full of clothes, having no idea how to like do anything with it. We didn't know how to sell to online. We didn't know like how to get it into stores. So that started the journey of me Googling how to make money online, how to sell online. And if anybody's ever Googled that, it can take you down a pretty dark rabbit hole of like stuff and like products. And so, here I am working as an engineer, really miserable and hating my life. And then here's all these sales videos and sales letters talking about like making $15,000 a month, working from your laptop and on the beach and all of this stuff. And sure enough, it got to me, and I was like, I want that life. I don't want this life anymore. So I started buying all these different products and learning about marketing and learning about affiliate marketing and SEO and PPC. And that kind of started the rabbit hole of understanding how do you actually sell stuff online. And I just never stopped. I just kept going down that rabbit hole and implementing and working and testing and trying things and failing a whole bunch of times with a whole bunch of different products and websites. And eventually I figured out how the puzzle all fits together. And now I'm able to, I don't know if I say luckily or whatnot, it was through a lot of hard work, but now I understand the big picture of how do you actually convert traffic into profit. And, it's a skill set that I've acquired over the years. So in short, that's kind of the backstory of how I got into this.
Okay, so I'm curious, did you ever get rid of all the t-shirts?
Yeah, after it took us probably 2 years, to be honest. Like we were still selling t-shirts here. Like, oh man, it was one of those things that, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that it took us so long, but it was more of a hobby than anything. Like it wasn't really a passionate business or something that we really wanted to dive into. I actually, while I was running, while we were doing the whole t-shirt thing and I was still working as an engineer, I started another website called qualitysurvivalknives.com, which was me learning all about affiliate marketing and about, SEO and stuff like that. And actually I thought I was being pretty smart and strategic, because remember back in 2012, at the end of 2012 was the end of the world according to the Mayan calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? So in my mind, I was like, people are going to be searching for survival stuff, of course. Like it's 2012, the end of the world is coming. So this was back in 2010. So I was like, oh, I'll be way ahead, and I'll be number one in 2 years. I'll be number one, and people are just going to buy, and I'll become a millionaire selling these knives. Yeah, that didn't happen. But I still built a website, and my roommate at the time had the same guy I started my t-shirt company with. He had all these different survival knives for some reason. Like he just collected them, and he loves being outdoors and stuff like that. So he just collects them. So I took pictures of all of them, wrote these articles, optimized them for search keywords. And it took me about 3 months or so to kind of really get this whole website. I literally went from not knowing anything about selling online, including how to set up a website and everything, to just learning this stuff and applying it and implementing it. And I remember that first website, the whole SEO thing started taking too long. I was still in my job and I was miserable, and I was like, man, 2012 is a really long ways away. I can't wait that long until people start really searching. So I just learned a little bit about AdWords and PPC. So I said, all right, I'm going to throw $100 and hopefully people buy something, and we'll see. So I set up these keywords and these ads. And after a couple of days, probably 2-3 days or something like that, I received an email that said I made my first commission. I was like, holy crap, I can't believe it. And the commission was $5.23. And I was like, I forget the number. I was ecstatic. I'd finally, I'd made money. I all this stuff, this was the first time. And then I look in my AdWords account, and I'd spent the entire $100 to make that $5.23. And at the time, I didn't know, but I was I went from being ecstatic to furious.
Horrified.
Yeah, you're telling me I just traded $100 for $5? That's not good. That's not fun. But then after that, that was kind of my first, call it my first win, because after I kind of calmed down, I realized that, like, wait a minute, I got a stranger, a random person who doesn't know me, who's never seen me before, who doesn't know what my website is or anything like that, to actually like read one of my reviews, click on a link and buy. That's pretty cool. Like, if I can find a way to flip those numbers, pay $5 and make 100, then that's really sweet. So I kind of started to realize that I'd figured something out. I just didn't know how all the pieces fit together. There was still something missing. That website went on to make an entire $0 after that $5.23. So, there's that. The whole Mayan calendar. And actually, the funny thing is, I was smart enough, or quote unquote smart enough, that to think about, the 2012 end of the year search volumes, but I was not smart enough to buy the domain for long enough to last until 2012. So the domain expired and the website was gone. So anyways, that was kind of the first time that I was able to kind of see results. We never ended up making any sales with our t-shirts online. All of the t-shirts were done like word of mouth, and we never were able to make that happen. But either way, like, that rabbit hole like just kept getting deeper, and I just kept learning, and I was like, I need to solve this puzzle. And it became a challenge, and it became something that drove me every single day. So yeah, that was an interesting time.
Okay, so I know we're going to have a change in the story. We're going to pivot, because you don't go from selling no t-shirts and no knives to $5,000 a day.
Yep.
So take us from the failed knife experiment and the Mayan calendar. We're all alive, so we didn't die.
Yeah, we didn't die.
So how did you get from there to helping other people too, I'm sure, make $5,000 a day plus in sales? And on what platforms are you selling on? Like, how are you guys doing Amazon, or are they doing their own websites? Like, I want to hear all of it.
Sure. So actually, one of the things that, so I ended up moving to London, to the UK in 2011. And I'll share a story with your audience to kind of explain to them something that really changed my approach to business, to life, to how I make decisions. So after I built this website, I had all of these t-shirts still. I was an engineer, and I wasn't happy, but I kind of knew now that I wanted to build a business. I kind of knew that I after starting this company and after building this website, I kind of had this urge and this bug. I was like, I got to figure something out, right? And at the time, this same roommate of mine, he was working for an advertising company, and the advertising company, he was working. It was a small little boutique kind of advertising company, and he was working directly with the founder and the CEO of the company. And they were doing probably around 10 million or so a year, give or take, somewhere around there, which to me was like, holy crap, right? Mm-hmm. And I got a chance to sit down with the owner and the CEO, and I asked him a question, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And you know how, as a society, we constantly always look for that one thing, right? That thing that you are going to do that is going to, give you all the happiness in the world, and that passion, that one thing. And I sat down with him, and I was like, how did you figure out that advertising was your passion? And he looked at me and he said, actually, Mikael, don't get it confused. Advertising is not my passion. I was like, okay, so why did you start an advertising company? He's like, there are 4 very specific things that drive me every single day. Number 1 is that I always want to enter a room surrounded by creative people who are smarter than me. I want to keep brainstorming with people who are very right-brained and are very creative. Number 2 is I always want to be working on dynamic projects. and working on new things all of the time, have diversity in my days. Number 3 is I love to strategize and lead that strategy and turn that strategy into an actual reality, right? Turn that vision into reality and see it come to existence. And number 4 is freedom, being my own boss, dictating what to do, when to do it. I get to choose. Nobody can tell me anything. It just so happens that building an advertising agency fulfills these 4 things. But there's a lot of other things that I could have done that would have fulfilled those 4 things. You need to stop looking at what you are striving for and figure out what are your core 4 things, what are your core 4 values, and then start looking at opportunities and evaluate them around that. All of a sudden, that changed everything for me. It changed everything in terms of my thinking, in terms of my mindset. I went home that day and I started writing down, okay, well, what are the things that drive me? What are the things that if I could do every single morning, I'd feel fulfilled and I'd feel motivated? And I wrote down, learn. Number 1, if I can learn something new every day, that gets me excited. That gets me pumped up. I feel like I've achieved something that day. Number 2 is build. And that's probably why I was an engineer. That's probably why, I went down that road, because I love the steps that you have to take in order to turn something that's on a piece of paper into an actual tangible thing, right? And a lot of people like the actual seeing the end result, but they don't like taking the steps. While me, I love actually going through that build process. It's exciting to me. Number 3 is advise, having conversations that I feel like I'm giving people aha moments, light bulb moments, whether it be around relationships or life or business or whatnot. Having those conversations is something that really motivates me, that gets me excited. And number 4 is freedom, which I find that most entrepreneurs have, is being able to do what you want, when you want, being able to go where you want, not having somebody tell you that you have to be here for a specific set of time, or if you want to watch Netflix on a Wednesday for no reason, you can, and nobody's going to stop you. And after I kind of wrote those things down, it reinforced the fact that building an online business is really something that I want to do, and it's going to help me fulfill these 4 boxes. But from that point forward, I actually literally have notebooks and stuff, and this is a really old notebook, but I actually put tabs like learn, build, advise, and everything that I did was based around these core 4 things. So every opportunity that I saw, every project that was presented in front of me, I started evaluating it against these 4 core things, as opposed to thinking, well, is this the one thing that's going to change my life or make me happy or whatnot? And I had an opportunity to move to London, to the UK, really to do my business degree, to do an MBA degree. My girlfriend at the time had moved over there for work purposes, and actually it was a kind of a funny story. She had moved there. She's in the hotel business, and she had an incredible opportunity. And here I was at the beginning of 2011. I just had this conversation. I had this knife website that didn't do anything for me, but made me my first bit of money, and kind of stuck. As an engineer over here, and kind of stuck. And I kind of knew I wanted to move into the business world. And the only real opportunity, the only real way that I could see was like, okay, well, I have to pivot. I have to try and find something that I want to do. So why not do an MBA degree? She's over there in the UK. Maybe this is, the right thing. I'll definitely learn something. I'll definitely build a network and build, new relationships, and who knows what will come from that. I'll have a lot more freedom than my current job, and I can skip class if I want to, right? And I don't have to. And at the same time, okay, I won't necessarily get to fulfill my advise box as much as I like to, but at least I get to fulfill 3 of the 4. So why not? Let's see what happens. So I applied to do my MBA degree. And due to lack of work experience, I actually got denied. And yeah, I ended up getting denied and not, they first denied me. And funny thing is, sometimes the universe aligns itself in some ways. And I'm not the most I'm definitely not religious or overly spiritual or anything like that, but definitely sometimes you see things that happen and you kind of wonder why did this just happen? And we had that moment. My girlfriend and I, she was back for the summer in 2011. And we were kind of going through a rough patch because she was in London. She'd been there for half a year. She was super excited about her new job and her opportunity. And she had no desire to come back to Toronto. And I got denied from this MBA program. And I wasn't going to move to London, to the UK, with no friends, no family, no job, no, nothing to do, just to sit on the couch while she goes to work. Right. So it was kind of this turning point within our relationship. And I remember the day before she was supposed to fly out, I was supposed to take her to the airport in the morning. And I brought her she was staying at her parents' house, and I brought her to home. We were in the car, and it was kind of a weird, we kind of knew. It was one of those things, it was almost like a goodbye. I don't know, I'll see you again. Yes, we're still together. We're still going to do this long distance, but I don't know how long we're going to last. This is, you don't want to come back home. I'm not going to go over there. So what are we going to do? And we're saying goodbye to each other. And my phone vibrates. I get an email, and I open up the email, and I'm in the driver's seat. She's in the passenger. And right away, I'm looking at this email. She looks at me. She's like, what is it? And I'm reading, and it says, I give it to her, and it says, "Congratulations, Mikael. You have been accepted into the MBA program. A spot has opened up for you," or something like that. I'm like, wow. Talk about just, I don't know, somebody wanted us to stay together, and here we are now. We're married. We have our 18-month-old daughter, and somebody wanted us to kind of stay together for some reason, I guess. And so yeah, I packed up my bags and moved to London and started this MBA program. So that kind of is a very roundabout, long way to kind of explain as to how I got into the whole business side of things and helping other people in business. But I felt that was something worth sharing, because I find that a lot of people don't know what they want, and they look for that one thing as if that one thing is going to provide the solution to all of their problems and make them happy. But in reality, you've got to identify what motivates you, what gets you excited, what fulfills you, and then start looking at opportunities, and then start, just going after things, taking chances. As long as they fulfill you, as long as they motivate you, start taking chances, because new opportunities will arise from that. New things will come from that. So I moved to London. I did my MBA program, and I was working, and throughout the entire MBA program, the only thing I did, yes, I went to some classes, not very many, but the only thing I cared about was marketing funnels. How do I solve this puzzle? I was able to turn $100 into $5. How do I flip that around, and how do I solve that puzzle? And I spent every time I had learning about funnels and email sequences, and studying people like Ryan Dice and Russell Brunson and Frank Kern, and the marketers, Dan Kennedy, and everybody in terms of direct response, learning about copywriting, and really trying to understand, how do you make this work? How do you turn that $1 of advertising into profit? And it just started clicking more and more and more as I was going through, as I was learning, and as I was taking these courses, and buying these different products, and implementing it along the way. And throughout the MBA program, I had a pretty good friend who's also randomly from Toronto, and he had built and sold a currency brokerage company, a currency brokerage firm here in the city. for like 4.9 million or something like that. So, somebody I really looked up to as an entrepreneur. Here I was, like this kind of wannabe entrepreneur, and this guy had successfully done so. And at the end of the MBA, he calls me up, and throughout the whole program, like we were pretty close, and he was like, we were always trying to come up with ideas as to, hey, what are we going to do? Like neither of us knew, we didn't want to work for anybody. And at the end of the MBA program, he calls me up and says, Mikael, I've got it. I know what we're going to do. I was like, okay, Colin, what are we going to do? He says, we're going to start a Mandarin language school. I was like, what? What are you talking about? I don't speak Chinese. I've never even been to China. Like, what the hell are you talking about, Colin? He's like, look, I've got it. I've figured it out. We can license a curriculum from one of the biggest schools. I have the opportunity to license this curriculum from one of the biggest schools in China. We're going to open up their first London campus. It's going to be all ours, but we're going to go through this process. You handle the marketing. You talk about marketing all the time. I'll handle the operations. I'll find us a Chinese teacher who's going to, run that side of things, and we'll make it work. I was like, well, I'm definitely going to learn something. I'm going to get to build something. I'm going to have more freedom than having a job. I'm probably not going to advise very many people when it comes to Mandarin and Chinese, but let's give it a shot. Why not, right? And we started this school at the kind of around August or so of 2012. Within 3 months, we were doing $30,000 a month. We sold it for close to $500,000 in 8 months. We exited, we scaled it super fast. And that was the first time that I implemented marketing funnels successfully. We set up a website with an actual opt-in where people would go through a sequence that I crafted, use Google Ads to drive traffic to it. And sales started coming really, really quickly. I guess we tapped into a very hot market, which is nice. But it worked. It worked really fast and really well. And that was the first time that I was like, man, if I can do this for Mandarin, for a Chinese school, I can do this for anything, right? Like, this is incredible. It was the first time that I had realized that, okay, I've spent enough time and I've learned this skill, and now I've applied it and it works, and I can do it again. And I understand how the big picture fits. Like the stuff that I was missing when I was doing the survival knife stuff, I had clarity in terms of what's missing and what's not, and why that didn't work, and all of this stuff. So after we exited that business, we went on to actually start another language business, a tech in more of a marketplace, kind of like an Airbnb / Uber for language learners and language teachers. And while I was growing that business, while I was building that business, I was also kind of advising and consulting with small businesses on their marketing funnels. I was learning and honing my craft and getting better at this stuff, and really helping these small businesses implement these different funnels and these different marketing strategies to try and convert traffic and actually start making more sales and whatnot. And turns out I was actually pretty good at it, and I was helping them, and they were seeing results. And I was implementing it for my own business, and that business ended up not really, ended up running out of runway and not really succeeding. But as I was kind of helping people, I started really fulfilling that advice box, right? And I started getting that motivation and that fulfillment from advising people and sharing this knowledge with them. And I stayed in London for about 3 years. And then in 2014, I moved back to Toronto at the end of 2014. My wife and I got married, and we, because I was advising these businesses, I really wanted to start my own kind of consultancy, like make it a little bit more official than just getting paid here and there. And I had this tech business, but we were 3 partners there. So I decided I'm going to let one of them run it, be the CEO. I'll step back and let me start my own kind of agency around this thing that I'm already really quite passionate about, and that I really enjoy talking to people on, and I really enjoy doing and implementing, and something that I love learning more about and stuff. So I started an a marketing agency around funnels, and we ended up growing that business very, very quickly. This is back here in Toronto, and sort of quickly, actually. It's not really true. In the first 18 months, we struggled at getting clients consistently. Funny thing is, for all of our clients, we were getting them really great results. But we weren't able to figure out what the funnel was, the marketing strategy for us to get consistent leads and consistent flow of clients for our own business. We were able to advise and help and build funnels for our clients, and they were getting awesome results, but not for ourselves. And something happened, and I can talk about like the change and the actual step-by-step strategies of what we did, but something happened, and we finally figured out what that funnel was for our own agency. And the first 18 months, we probably did around 200 grand in sales in those first 18 months. But then once we nailed our funnel, once we nailed our strategy to get leads consistently and close those leads consistently, the following 18 months, we skyrocketed. We went from the 200 the first 18 months, and then the following 18 months, we did over $1 million in that 18 months. It went like boom, and leads were coming in. We were closing them very, very quickly. We were closing them for big ticket prices. We were able to raise our prices because we had such a flow of leads and whatnot. But something that I learned and that hit us really hard was our sales went like this, but that meant that our operations needed to kind of move at the same pace. And our team wasn't, as stable, and the foundation of the business wasn't as stable as it needed to be. We had 9 full-time employees. We went, like I said, from like 20 grand or so a month to like 80, then 100, then 160, then just basically staying at around the $100,000 to $160,000 a month mark nonstop. And clients were coming in. So I was building the operations, and I was building the, trying to install that foundation, and I had a full-time team of 9 people. But the funny thing is, like, when you scale too fast, especially when you do services, you're basically building a conveyor belt, right? You're trying to build this conveyor belt, and you're putting clients on that conveyor belt, and people are going and building and creating. But like, the problem is, those people are on that conveyor belt, and they catch up, and they keep moving, and then boom, they fall at the front, right? Because like, you haven't built that front piece, and like, now you're catching up, and then boom, the next client falls, and things, you have to put out fires, and you have to deal with things that are unforeseen and whatnot. So we grew that business, but then in February of last year, in February 2017, my wife and I, and our pretty much newborn, she was 5 months old at the time. It was our first trip as a family. We were like, okay, well, things are going really well in terms of like sales. We're making a lot of money. Things are going well in that sense. There's still a bunch of stress and stuff like that. And like, in my mind, I was like, okay, like, these are growing pains. We're going through this, and it's normal, etc. But I was like, look, I have a full-time team of 9 people, like, if I can't take 2 weeks off, like, then why am I doing this in a sense? So we're like, okay, we went away on a trip to San Diego for 2 weeks. And the entire 2 weeks, my wife and Isabel were walking up and down the beach by themselves every single day, from morning until evening, until dinner time. I was on phone calls, emails, Skype calls. My team was calling me. My clients were calling me saying that, hey, well, we signed up because we wanted to work with you. And, everything was just, it was nonstop. When I was at dinner, like, I think Brigitte could like sense, Brigitte's my wife's name. She could sense the stress like oozing out of me, and she didn't even want to be near me because I was kind of just, there's just too much. And even at night I was laying in bed and I just didn't sleep. I just kept thinking all of the crap I have to do the next day, and just to try and stay on top and in front of everything. And at the end of the trip, Brigitte said to me, she's like, honestly, I wish we didn't go on this trip. I wish we didn't do this because there was no point. Like, it was our first trip as a family and it wasn't enjoyable. And that like really made me realize that, man, like, is this really why I decided to be an entrepreneur? Is this really why I decided to build a business? And it made me reevaluate a lot of my decisions and a lot of my life and a lot of what I really wanted, and why I was really driven by the money. And I realized that, okay, now that I know how to make a lot of money, crap, like, I don't have the whole freedom. And that was one of my 4 boxes. And I don't have it at all. I can't even have a trip with my family. And like, that's not cool. And why am I doing this? So I decided to really think through, do I keep going down this path or do I shut it down? And, so either way, what I said as soon as I came back from that trip, I was like, all right, no more leads, no more, we're shutting down our entire sales cycle for the foreseeable future. Like, and the funny thing with a funnel, if you get it right, it is like a switch. You turn it on, things start flowing, you turn it off, things stop flowing, right? And we turned it off. And I was like, okay, for now, like, we need to stabilize some stuff. But for now, my mindset was like, I don't know if we're going to turn it back on or not. Right now, all I know is that I want to get rid of some clients. I want to stabilize some of this. I want to try and figure some stuff out. And as the cash flow started going down, of course, because we weren't, closing clients, but I still needed my team to support the clients that we had. So my expenses were still staying high. So cash was coming down. So our monthly profit was diminishing every single month. And by the 3rd month or so, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, well, now is like, I had let go of 2 or 3 employees, maybe even 4 at the time. And I had to kind of make the decision, do I want to turn it back on and keep going, or like, is this it? I decided, I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to bring on more clients. I don't want to keep doing this. Like, we have a $1 million business. I worked so hard to get it to this point, and I wasn't happy with the path that I was on. And I when you sell services, you kind of have to go in one of 2 directions. You can either go down the path of like being extremely niche and precise as to who you serve and what you do. And like, it really does become a conveyor belt. And it's like, we only work with local gyms and we only implement this one system for these local gyms. Or you can go down the path of like working with bigger brands who you can do custom strategies, but if they do pay you $50,000 or $100,000, that's not their entire marketing budget. Mm-hmm. And if it works or it doesn't work, it's, there's leeway there, so I found that was kind of the 2 paths that I could see when it came to agencies. I definitely didn't want to go down the big side, the big company side, because the whole reason I started the agency in the first place was because I wanted to be able to advise clients and work with them myself and whatnot. But I got to a point now where I wasn't able to do so, right? We grew too quickly, too big. I kind of had to find a way to step away. And on the other side, where it's like keeping it super niche, well, that's super boring in my opinion. That's not the reason I that wasn't a fun type of business for me. I wanted to have an impact on the people that I was working with and really kind of continue down working with people on that, a little bit more of that one-on-one, or at least, in that more impactful way. So I decided to shut it down. I decided that I wasn't going to take on any more clients. I cut my entire team. We went from 9 full-time employees to 0. Revenue went to 0 in terms of the agency. We stopped taking on clients, and I focused on a few other things. Luckily for myself, I had one of my first clients in the business was this company that we grew from $2,500 a month to $5,000 a day, which I became a partner in. I became the CMO of that company. He was, when you go from $2,500 a month to like $5,000 a day, anybody can kind of be like, all right, I'll give you some equity, and let's figure out a partnership or agreement here, because it's like, there's a big difference between those numbers, right? So when we grew that business, I was like, look, let's partner on this. There's a lot more potential. We can keep growing this business, but I want a piece of it, and I want to, work with you on that. And so we created an agreement, and I became a partner in that business and CMO. So that allowed me to kind of tie myself over in terms of my own personal income and whatnot. And I guess luckily, while I was growing the agency, I spent a lot of my profits investing in this software called Funnelytics and hiring developers, because I had this vision for this really cool tool that would allow me to build funnels, not build them, but at least track and optimize them in a much better way. Mm-hmm. So I'd spent a lot of my profits on development of that software. And by the end of 2017, it was at a stage where it was kind of good enough to show to people. So I was like, all right, well, let's see what happens with this. And I went down that path. And February of this year, we did $210,000 in 48 hours with our launch. And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I love that you have been very transparent in your successes and your failures. And I've taken 4 pages of notes since we've been talking.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think it's important to tie it back into the business world, and that you said right out of the get-go, look, I failed a lot. Mm-hmm. I have a story, but it's a twisty, turny, windy one, and it's not pretty.
No.
I went from selling T-shirts to knives and failed in both of those times. And then I landed on this Mandarin business and found I could make $500,000 fairly quickly, and sold that company. Yeah. And then I did this like language Airbnb thing. And then I did this, and then I did that. And so I took a few different pieces of notes that I thought were interesting. One, I love your 4 core moments. And so I think it's important for everybody to stop for 5 minutes and turn everything off and think about, what are your 4 cores? Maybe we should call them 4 cores. What are the things that get you up, and excited in the morning? And like, what do you want the end thing to, like, what do you want to manifest out of this life? Like, to your point, you can create it. You don't want to work for other people, because you can't create it usually when you're working for other people. So you kept saying, I didn't want to work for somebody else. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to have my own company. And so I kept creating and building and doing something different. And so I put down, work for yourself and create some sort of consultancy. That's really what you did that led you into the Funnelytics business that I know you're CMO for now, but you're also joint partner. And if you want to go and work from the beach, you can now, right?
I can, yeah. And the funny thing is, so this was last year. It was last year, February, that my wife and I were in San Diego, where it didn't work. I actually, almost to kind of prove it to myself, but not really. I mean, I love San Diego, but we were in the whole month of March, 4 weeks. We were in San Diego this year, and
you unplugged.
It was amazing. Like I went to the beach every single day with, and my daughter was, 2 months ago, so 16 months or something like that, and I went to the beach every single day with my wife and Isabel, and I don't know. It's funny how like, you put something in your mind and like, I didn't want that life. And I found a way to kind of twist it. But like you said, it wasn't pretty in the sense. It wasn't like everything lined up and it's like, oh, okay, well, I am this superstar or this superhero, like that I could just snap my fingers and everything. No, that's not how it panned out. Like I went through this shitstorm over here before I was able to kind of realize that I don't want that shitstorm anymore. And let me build something different
Well,
that
and I
allows.
wanted to say thank you for deconstructing that part, because that's the messy, the bloody, the like having to let team members go that work for you.
It's the
And you
worst.
have to, you're supporting them to go
Yeah,
buy food for their family. It sucks. I
it
get it.
does.
I've done it. And I love that you deconstructed it, because I feel you, because I'm there too, where I'm the business development person for my
Yeah.
company. And so it's constantly bring in more, bring in more, bring in more. And then I run to the back to the operational line and conveyor belt and go, okay, how are we doing? Everything's moving. Are we okay? Are we okay? Are we okay? Fall off. Don't fall off.
Yeah.
And so I love that you were like, I just walked away from it all, which is scary and terrifying. And you have some big kahunas to be able to do that. Like, that's amazing.
It was tough. It was a really tough decision because again, it's so a lot of times I find that the reason why people don't make decisions or they do make decisions, those decisions are very much driven by ego, and they're very much driven by their, like, you spent 18 months building this, well, really 3 years, but like by the end of it, by the time we really started taking off, I had spent 18 months, and then really by the time I decided to slow it down was another 6-8 months or something like that, maybe a little bit more. But I spent all of this time working so hard trying to build this, and then now your ego kind of comes in and says, well, no, like I made this work, like I've got to stick with it. But a
Yeah.
lot of times you have to sit back and evaluate and ask yourself, like, why did I do this in the first place? Like why did I even want to start this business in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times you start to realize that what you're doing today is not the reason why you started the business, and it's not you don't want to keep it going. In a sense, you're like, where you're headed is not why you wanted this business in the first place. And that takes a lot of self-reflection, and it takes a lot of, you have to admit it to yourself. You have to put your ego at the door and say, do I really want this? Like, because one thing's for sure, we only have one life, right? There's only this is a journey. There's no destination that we're headed. The only destination is really when we pass away, and we're 6 feet under, unfortunately. But it's a journey, right? The journey doesn't have to be roses every single step. It's a path that we're creating for ourselves. But you do have to enjoy the path that you're on. You have to, because otherwise,
Good.
what's the point? What's the point of living a life that doesn't actually make you happy? And like, oh, I'll suffer today so I can be happy tomorrow. That's just stupid.
Well, but I think that's how we're taught, and it's
It
how
is.
we're raised, and it's societal norm. And I love that you've spent some time in other countries, because I don't know if that's a US thing, but it certainly isn't a healthy thing. I love that. You have to enjoy the path that you're on. So it sounds to me like the solution of the Funnelytics that really automates this piece of your business that takes so many hands to like manually track and report on and maneuver, is that the solution that you needed in your previous business to be able to keep that going? Or how has that pivoted you to where you're at now?
No, I wouldn't say that it was the solution to. Look, I mean, growing a business always has its challenges. There's no one piece of software that's ever going to solve,
All your automation.
like growing a business. It's never, that's never the case. Like, you have to have good leadership, and you have to have good managers and the right people in place and all of that stuff. And, that actually is a lot more important. For me with Funnelytics, what it was is, so as a marketer, what you do is you sit down with a piece of paper or on your whiteboard, and you map out your funnels, or you map out how you anticipate people flowing to your checkout page or to your application or whatever it is. You say, all right, well, here's a Facebook ad, and that Facebook ad goes to a landing page, and then they opt in, and there's a download page, and then there's the emails that follow up and whatnot, right? You map it all out. And then you go and build the pages, and you write your emails, and then you have to use like charts and graphs and these different softwares to try and figure out how are people actually flowing through this map that I just drew on my whiteboard.
And is that reality?
Is that reality? Like, and then you're seeing like, well, actually this click made you, and it doesn't really give you real, most people are visual, and most of us aren't data scientists, like who can kind of just be like, well, yeah, the square root of this plus this minus this is equal to this, and that's why you made money. And it's like, no, that's like, show me how people are flowing to my checkout page so I can visually see what I need to optimize, right? And that was always my thought process behind it, was why can't I have a software that allows me to visually map the same way I would on a whiteboard, but then just literally hit a switch and see how people are flowing through all of these steps. That way I could easily identify which paths are making me money, which ones am I wasting money on, what needs to be optimized, where can I kind of play with? Because again, if you can visually see it, you have clarity. You know what's happening, as opposed to trying to dissect what's happening inside of Google Analytics or spreadsheets and just whatnot. So that was the idea, and that was always the concept behind it. I actually had this idea back in 2013, and I wrote it down in one of my notebooks. I called it at the time Project Game Changer. That was the name, because in my mind I was like, if I could have this tool, this would be a game changer. This would be incredible. And I didn't have the resources or anything like that to start developing it. But as we were growing White Coat Digital at our agency, and as we started becoming very profitable, I was like, I think it's time. Let's just go and develop this. And my intention was always just to use it for myself and for my agency and for my clients. And after I decided to no longer run the agency, I had this really cool tool. And I was like, let's see what I can do with this.
So who is your ideal customer
for Funnelytics?
Mm-hmm.
So we really have two types of people that use Funnelytics. The first is your agency style, the person who provides services to clients, right? Where they want to visually show them what they're about to build them, or they want to visually show them the funnel or the strategy. And I found that the tool itself is really cool. It's easy, drag and drop. It's a very nice canvas, much easier than using PowerPoint presentations or anything like that. So there's that type of client, mm-hmm. which is more about showcasing to their client. And the analytics side of Funnelytics, the gathering the data, really comes down to the person who actually is sending traffic to their funnel. So it is agencies as well. It is people who are kind of doing this for their clients, and it's helping them retain their clients longer, because a business owner doesn't know what these spreadsheets with these numbers mean. Mm-hmm. But when they can see that, because the cool thing with Funnelytics is that you can import thumbnails of your actual website and your pages. So when you show a client from your homepage, and here's a nice little picture of your homepage, and then there's an arrow that goes to your checkout page, and you can see that only 2% are going through, that shows them, right? They can visually see it. So it helps you retain clients that way. But then the other type of business owner is just your kind of entrepreneur who has a website and who is sending traffic or doing advertising and just wants clarity on what ads are working, what emails are working, what's happening with their actual data. So we kind of have those two, the agency side and then the entrepreneur side.
Okay. Is this something that people are signing up for like it's a monthly payment? Is it a one-time thing? Is it a consulting thing that you go in and I mean, like, how does this work?
Yeah. So funny thing is, when we launched, so I always, in my mind, before I actually launched it, in my mind, it was always about the analytics, right? It was always about the fact that you get to see your analytics. It just so happens that you have this really cool mapping tool to visually see your analytics,
Okay.
right? I was hanging out with a couple buddies of mine, very, successful entrepreneurs I was showing them the software, and they're like, "Yo, Mikael, like this is really cool." And I was like, "I know, like I've been building it for the last 18 months. I know it's cool. Like you don't have to tell me. Thank you." But they're like, "No, we mean the mapping tool is really cool." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's really about the analytics, guys. Like forget the mapping tool. Like that's fine." And they're like, "No, what you should do, Mikael, is give away this mapping tool for free because it's really sweet and people are going to love it. And then once people map their funnel, most people who send traffic will want to look at the data anyways, right? So it's a nice, easy upsell to get them into the analytics side." So actually, after that kind of mastermind and that brain, that's when I spoke to those guys. I was like, that's pretty clever. So that's what I did. So the mapping tool itself is 100% free, and it always will be free. And the analytics is what you pay for. The analytics is currently in beta. We have our beta group right now. We're opening up a second round of beta users very soon, but then we're kind of looking for our big public launch later this year, most likely around October-ish or something like that for the analytics. But the mapping tool is free. People can sign up. People can play with it. It's really cool.
Perfect. And people can go to funnelytics.io, right, to get the free mapping tool. And then can they put their name in the hat for being part of this analytics beta group, or how do they
so
get
we have a wait list.
Okay.
So, and we'll be opening up the next round 2 weeks or so, give or take.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, though, to be honest, this is probably the last beta group that we're taking in.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're just going to continue to develop and make it the best tool possible, and then go towards our public launch.
Awesome. Well, Mikael, thank you for spending a whole hour with us today. I learned so much. I love the business sense that you gave us about the twisty turny, road that is life and that is entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I loved one thing that you said, especially that was like, I had my hands in multiple businesses, right?
Yeah.
At least towards the beginning when you were trying to figure out what worked for you.
I did.
So figure out your 4 core. Go to funnelytics.io and go play with the little mapping tool. And then if you want to be a part of the analytics piece, by the time you guys see and hear this podcast, it will be live. So go hop on there and get your name on the list really quickly.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Mikael.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Bye.
Bye.